Good evening. Happy Monday. It's great to be with you, even if it's through electronic means. So we have a couple of wild readings today, and there's a few things that caught me. There's so much to preach on, but there's a few things that really caught me. I'll just preach on those few things, those three things really. Number one is the wickedness in each reading. We have some wicked men, and dare I say, evil men. Now, do you know the difference between bad and evil? I've preached on this on daily masses before. I don't think I've ever said it on a Sunday mass. The difference between bad and evil, and this distinction, I'm stealing it from Archbishop Fulton Sheen. Surprise, surprise. So, bad. Bad people do bad things, and they may be very bad things. It might be murder. That's a very bad thing. Evil people destroy the good in someone else. So we see that all over these readings today. In the first reading, the wicked men, they offer Susanna a choice. Let us destroy you morally, or we will destroy your life and have you put to death. In the gospel today, and this is one of the saddest scenes in the gospel, I think. The scribes and the Pharisees are there, and it's interesting, all the people are gathering around Jesus. So is Jesus by himself? No, he's in the midst of a crowd. And then they come and they bring the woman into the middle. They make her stand in the middle. The scribes and Pharisees are dragging this woman through the mud, destroying her reputation, whatever's left of it. And they're doing this, they're destroying her in order to destroy Jesus. They said this to test him so that they could have some charge to bring against him. So again, an evil man tries to destroy the good in someone else. Is there any good in Jesus? Yes, definitely. When you're trying to destroy Jesus, that is evil. So that's the first point, the wickedness in today's readings. The second point, where are our eyes? And this is the main thing that caught my attention. So in the first reading, when the wicked men decided on their evil deed, it says, they suppressed their consciences. They would not allow their eyes to look to heaven. So what is the conscience? Well, it's the voice of God speaking in us. They crushed Jiminy Cricket, they pushed God aside, and they would not allow their eyes to look to heaven. They wouldn't even look to God. So what are they doing? Consciously or unconsciously, they're cutting themselves off from God. And that's what we always do when we refuse to look at him. We cut ourselves off. But when I cut myself off from God, when I push God aside, I still need a God. And what's going to happen? I then, myself, try to take his place. I make myself God. Okay, and here's the third point. Human history has shown us that we are horrible at playing God. One example, there's so many, but one example, back in 2002, there was the Washington sniper out in Washington, D.C. in Virginia area. And I don't know if you remember this, but he killed 10 people. He shot 10 people over the course of about 3 weeks. He shot a few others too that didn't die, but he killed 10 people. And when all this was happening, I was at the beginning of my senior year in high school. And while it was still hot, they hadn't found him yet, it was all over the news. And on the news one evening, there was a military sniper. And that sniper said, when you have someone's head in your crosshairs, it's like you are God. You decide who lives, you decide who dies. So I watched that news, I was like, wow. Some years later, after going through my own conversion and everything, I was hearkening back to that line. You are God, and you decide who lives and who dies. And I thought, you know what? That line is a little bit misleading. You don't decide who lives. That person is already alive. You merely decide to dish out death. And that's what happens whenever man plays God. God is always the God of life. Man very quickly becomes the God of death. We become very, very wicked very quickly. Okay, so to conclude, to tie this all together, in the first reading, the wicked men would not allow their eyes to look to heaven. Contrast that with Susanna, the righteous woman whom they are trying to destroy. It says, through tears she looked up to heaven, for she trusted in the Lord wholeheartedly. So where are your eyes? We are in the midst of dark times, there's no doubt about that. And by letting our eyes drift away from God, these times will only become darker. And I'm sure a lot of people have been into a lot of dark places in these weeks. So I invite you, put your eyes back on the Lord. In our gospel verse right before the gospel, it said, I take no pleasure in the death of the wicked man, says the Lord, but rather in his conversion that he may live. Our God is a God of life. He loves you very, very much. No matter where you've been in these weeks, put your eyes back on him. You'll see. God love you.